My husband and I, gay couple, have a memorial shrine in our home. The urns and photos of both of our fathers and dog are displayed. I kept a large paw-shaped locket wrapped around my dog's urn. It was filled with a bit of his fur. My brother, his wife, and 2 kids came over for burgers and hot dogs. Soon after, I found the locket to be missing. We searched everywhere. It was gone. A few days later, my brother calls at 9 p.m. and I mentioned that the locket was missing. He casually mentions that he knows his 11-year-old had borrowed it. I demanded it back, that he gets off his butt and returns it immediately. He said no, he's tired. I'm angry, go to his house and bang on the door until he opens it and tosses the locket at me. It had been opened. My boy's fur was missing from it. I go home and get a call. Apparently, a neighbor saw me yelling at him and called the cops. So my brother is mad at me, yet still wants to get together for another barbecue. I told him that he and his daughter will need to apologize to me and my husband. My brother refused, saying she's too young to understand that stealing is wrong and it would just traumatize and embarrass her. My husband is super non-confrontational and says I'm being a jerk for demanding an apology from a kid, that it won't change anything. The fur is gone, and nothing will bring it back. My brother thinks I'm a jerk, and 11-year-olds don't understand that theft is wrong. I believe an apology is 100% needed, as she stole and damaged something precious to me. So that's where we are. I feel shitty about this, and don't know why. Yet, I feel that I deserve a sincere apology. So Redditors, who sucks here? Edit. I'm calm. I fully understand that I overreacted. Should have waited to pick up the locket during the daytime. I shouldn't have yelled at my brother, where my niece may or may not have heard. Demanding an apology is somewhat pointless if it's not out of genuine remorse. Though I hope they realize they fricked up and do apologize. I'll still host the next BBQ. My brother is a shoot, but he's still family. Update. I hosted the big Q, but my brother surprised us by bringing over curry and katsu. My niece was very silent during the day. I later asked her why she took the locket and what she did with the fur. She just wanted to borrow it, but she apparently washed out the fur in the sink. I guilted her a bit by saying it was special to me. We had Haru for 17 years. How I thought she loved him too. One of the displayed photos is of when she was hugging him as a toddler. She said she did love him, but he didn't need it. I remained calm and gave her the locket, telling her that because of her, the bit of him that made it special to me was now gone forever. She remained fairly silent throughout the party. No apology ever came. Life is what it is. I just don't want a feud. Hopefully, she will have learned something from this event, though she won't be trusted in my home for a very long time. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. 11-year-olds know that stealing is wrong. Your brother saying that is complete BS. Having her not apologize is teaching her that she can do whatever she wants and get away with it. Your brother is being a complete idiot over this, and you should stick to your guns. I wouldn't want that child in my house or your brother because she steals and he lets her, and what she stole wasn't valuable. It was sentimentally valuable. I'm petty enough the next time you have a present-giving situation. Get her something she wants, and then let her unwrap it. As soon as she does, grab it and say, "Oh, I'm taking this, I want it," and walk away. Don't you start screaming, tell her, "See, stealing hurts." Not the idiot. Your brother and his daughter are definitely. Comment 2. Not the idiot. The child doesn't understand theft is wrong? No, she's just been enabled to get away with it, so she doesn't believe rules apply to her specifically. There's nothing traumatizing about apologizing and taking accountability. It's called learning and growing. She stole something extremely important from your home, and her father acts like it's no big deal. I wouldn't trust either of them in your house again. Or I would tell him that if they do come, you'd need to constantly monitor his daughter around the house as if she's a toddler, since apparently that's how he's treating her. I don't think they'd go over particularly well though. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around after my last post. It's been a wild few days, and I've got some updates for you. After the whole Locket incident, things were tense between my brother and me. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, and my husband, despite his aversion to conflict, was quietly supportive of my stance. We both missed our dog Haru terribly, and that locket was more than just a keepsake. It was a tangible connection to a beloved family member we'd lost. 3 days ago, my brother called me out of the blue. I was expecting another round of excuses, or maybe even a half-hearted apology. Instead, he said he wanted to talk. He came over, alone this time, and we sat down in the living room, the air thick with unspoken words. He started by recounting how, as kids, we'd always had each other's backs. He reminded me of the time I'd stood up for him when some bullies at school were giving him a hard time. I hadn't thought about that in years, but it brought back a flood of memories. It was a subtle reminder that we were family, and that used to mean something. Then, he dropped a bombshell. He admitted that he'd found the fur from Haru's locket. It turned out his daughter hadn't washed it down the sink after all. She'd hidden it in her room, scared of the consequences after realizing how important it was. My brother had found it while cleaning her room, and not knowing what it was, had almost thrown it away. I was floored. The relief of knowing the fur wasn't gone for good was overwhelming. But there was more. My brother then did something I never expected. He apologized. Not just for his daughter's actions, but for his own. He admitted he should have taken the situation more seriously and respected my feelings. The next day, my niece came over with her dad. She looked nervous, clutching something in her hand. It was the fur, carefully wrapped in a small piece of tissue. She handed it to me, her eyes downcast. "I'm sorry," she said, so quietly I could barely hear her. "I didn't mean to make you sad." I could tell she was sincere, and in that moment, all my anger melted away. I thanked her, and we spent some time putting the fur back into the locket together. It was a small, delicate process, but it felt like we were repairing more than just the locket. We were mending our relationship too. That evening, my husband and I sat down and looked at the photos of Haru, our fathers, and the now restored locket. We talked about the good times, the memories that each picture evoked. It was bittersweet, but it felt like closure. The next day, my brother invited us over for dinner. It was an awkward invitation, but we accepted. When we arrived, I was surprised to see that he'd gone all out. He'd prepared our dad's favorite dish, a recipe that had been passed down through our family. It was his way of bringing a piece of our father back to the table, a silent acknowledgement of the shrine's importance to us. During dinner, my niece was quiet, but she kept glancing at me with what I could only interpret as a mix of regret and hope. After we'd eaten, she pulled out a small drawing she'd made. It was a picture of Haru, with a big heart around it. She handed it to me, and I could see the effort she'd put into getting his spots just right. "We can put it next to his urn if you want," she said, her voice stronger now. I was touched. It was a simple gesture, but it meant the world. We decided to place it right there, next to Haru's urn, where it would be a new addition to our memorial shrine. As we left my brother's house that night, I felt a weight had been lifted. The feud that had threatened to divide our family was behind us. My niece had learned a valuable lesson, and I'd been reminded that family can surprise you in the best possible ways. Life is indeed what it is, and while it can throw curveballs, it can also bring moments of unexpected healing. My brother and I had found our way back to being brothers, and my niece wouldn't be excluded from our home anymore. Trust would take time to rebuild, but we were on the right path. I found out my mom named me after my aunt's stillborn son and confronted her, but now she hates me for it. Last month I, 17-year-old male, learned that my mom named me after one of my stillborn cousins. My aunt, my mom's sister, had 4 stillborn children, and her only son is the one I was named for. My aunt never got to bring a child home. I feel like I always knew she lost kids, but I never knew her son, and I shared a name. It's not a common name either. I never met another person with my name, and while I always loved having a unique name, learning the origin of it makes me so uncomfortable. As long as I can remember, my aunt has hated my mom and never wanted to be near her. I never got it. My aunt was always nice to me, but I could feel how awkward she was around me. I could never figure out why. It was weird because my whole family gave me a nickname and always called me that. The nickname was unrelated to my name, and everybody used it for me. That wasn't so weird, but I guess I did used to wonder, because I remember when they hosted a party last year to celebrate me getting an award for my art. They used my nickname, which is more of a pet name, on the cake, the banner and stuff. It didn't have my first name on it at all. I was talking to my cousin before Christmas. She's my uncle's kid, and I asked her why everyone calls me by the nickname and never by my name, and she told me it was hard for them to use the name and not think of my cousin. I asked her what she meant, and she told me it was a whole drama, and Mom almost lost her whole family over it. Nobody thought it was kind, and our aunt was so pissed at Mom. Apparently, Mom even told Dad that was my name, and he got no real say. It made me feel so uncomfortable, because every time they hear my name, they think of him, and he never got a chance to live and grow. I know naming people after dead family members is a thing, and that's fine, but an infant who was still born, it feels so gross to have the name. I confronted my parents, and Mom told me it was no big deal, and I shouldn't feel ashamed that my aunt is the one who should be ashamed. I asked Mom how she could be so insensitive to her sister. She didn't get over that, and a week ago, it all kind of bubbled over, and she told me I have no right to be mad. I started yelling that she cursed me with a name that makes everyone think of a tragedy. I told her the name is more associated with him than me, and that makes sense because they lost him way too soon, and it will also make them think of his sisters, who didn't live either. My mom said I had no right to yell at her, and I am just as bad as the rest of the family when they all treated her like shoot for how she chose to name me. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. Your mother named you to hurt her sister, and she succeeded. Your family's response was not to call you by that name, and now you know why. What your mother did was gross, and now her cruelty is coming back to bite her. Unfortunately, it has hurt you too. None of this is your fault. It might be worth approaching your aunt. Tell her you found out the origin of your name and wish it had not been such a source of pain for her. Comment 2, not the idiot, and thank you for sharing. We see a lot of posts on here from the person in your mom's role or aunt's role about this exact issue. I've never seen the child's take on it before. This sounds like a very alienating and confusing situation, and hopefully, people who are debating baby names will read this and see what it's like for the person carrying that name. Sorry you're in this position. Now, for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been 3 months since I last posted about the whole situation with my name and the family drama that came with it. I wish I could say things have settled down, but boy have they escalated. So, after the blowout with my mom, things at home were tense. I mean, walking on eggshells kind of tense. My dad, who's usually the peacemaker, tried to smooth things over, but it was like trying to glue a shattered vase back together. The cracks were still there. He confessed to me one night that he regretted not standing up to my mom about the name thing. He told me he felt cornered when she insisted on naming me after my stillborn cousin. He thought it would help her cope with her own miscarriage from years before I was born, something I never knew about until that moment. The injustice of it all hit me like a truck. My mom had been carrying this pain, and instead of dealing with it, she transferred it onto me. And my dad, well, he just went along with it, thinking he was helping. But the truth was, it hurt a lot of people. Especially my aunt. Speaking of my aunt, she reached out to me. We had this heart-to-heart, where she explained how she felt when she found out I was named after her son. She was devastated, felt betrayed, and it reopened old wounds she thought had healed. She told me she never hated me, but it was just too painful to be around me sometimes. That's why she was always so awkward. It was a lot to take in, and I felt this heavy guilt for something I had no control over. Now, here's where things get even more twisted. My cousin, the one who spilled the beans about the family drama, let slip that my mom had actually promised my aunt that she would never use the name if she had a son. It was like a pact between them. But when I was born, my mom went back on her word. That's why the family was so upset with her. They felt she had betrayed my aunt in the worst possible way. The fallout from that was like a bomb going off. My grandparents had sided with my aunt, and there was this huge rift in the family. My mom had been ostracized for years, and I never knew. They only started to mend fences when I was a toddler, and even then, it was never the same. I couldn't believe my mom would do something like that. I confronted her again, and this time, she broke down. She admitted she was wrong, and that she let her grief cloud her judgment. She apologized to me, but I told her it wasn't just me she needed to apologize to. So we had this family meeting, my mom, dad, aunt, and grandparents. It was like a scene from a drama show. My mom finally apologized to my aunt, and it was the most emotional thing I've ever witnessed. There were tears, and for the first time in years, I saw my aunt hug my mom. It was a start, but there's still a long way to go for healing. In the midst of all this, I've been trying to figure out my own feelings about my name. I've been using my nickname more and more, and it feels right. My friends have been super supportive, and even my art teacher, who always encouraged me to express myself, said that names are like titles to a painting. They can always change to better suit the piece. But just when I thought things were starting to look up, another surprise dropped. My cousin, the one who's been my ally through all of this, confessed that she overheard my mom talking about how she sometimes resents me because I'm the living reminder of her own loss and the pain she caused the family. It was like a punch in the gut. I haven't confronted my mom about it yet. I don't even know if I can. I want to cut my adopted granddaughter out of my will, But my son says I accept her, or he cuts me out completely. I just found out he was involved with his current wife before his previous marriage ended. My wife and I are in our 60s. We are thinking of retiring soon and trying to get our finances and everything we own in order. For example, we're finally selling our old house because it's too big and we don't need it. We want to live in a quieter place and a smaller house. We have 3 kids, all adults by now. Each of our kids has their own kids as well. We have a daughter with 1 kid, a son with 2, and another son with 2 biological kids and a stepdaughter. Our youngest son was married about 10 years ago. He cheated on his wife, and they got divorced. He cheated with his current wife, then he adopted her daughter. We want to divide our estate between our children and our grandchildren. We had a family gathering to talk about some of these things, especially the house, in case any of our children wanted to buy it themselves. Our son got very angry when he heard that we are cutting off his adopted child from the will. We told him she's not our family, and we don't support his life choices and how he ruined his family. He told us to stop holding a grudge for something that happened years ago and accept the child or cut him and his family off. My wife and I think that his new wife and the child are living proof of him ruining his family. Do you think we are wrong in this? She is a child, and he's right that she's his. But does that automatically make her our family? He said we're treating his wife and daughter poorly, and we're acting like jerks towards a kid. The stepdaughter and the adopted daughter are the same girl. My son married her mother, and then he adopted her. Questions. The girl was 1 or 2 years old when my son and his mother started their relationship. We don't see or talk to each other often, only in family gatherings. They live in another state. She doesn't call us her grandparents. What each of our kids is getting are family heirlooms and not money. All the money will be distributed among our grandkids in our will to hopefully help them get their education paid. My son doesn't have contact with his ex-wife or his biological kids. He cut them off and didn't even want to pay child support. My wife and I helped our daughter-in-law and our grandchildren. To make it clear, what my son is getting from us is some photos and items from his childhood that we keep. It's essentially trash, but we like to look at them every once in a while to remember our kids' childhoods. He isn't getting money or jewelry. I'm getting a lot of comments. Sorry if I can't answer all the questions. For those who wonder if the girl could actually be biologically my son's daughter, I don't know, and it doesn't make a difference to me or my wife. For those who say that love should be unconditional, I disagree. Love is always conditional on the bare minimum to maintain a bond. That's my opinion. Yes, my son's 2 biological kids, the kids he had with his first wife, are in the will, along with our other 2 kids' children. Our grandchildren are getting some heirlooms too. The things we're giving to our son aren't things that our other 2 kids would want. For those who are saying that I would neglect a child adopted by my children under different circumstances, no. This is all about the circumstances in which this girl and my son's new wife came into the family. I don't care if she's adopted or biological. It'll be the same for me. The circumstances in which my son cheated, which is bad enough, and proceeded to kick his family out and abandon them, are the reasons why neither my wife, nor me, nor the rest of our family has a good relationship with the 3 of them. My other 2 kids agree with us and aren't close to their brother either. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Why don't you just leave your 3 children equal shares? That way you wouldn't have to worry about this issue, and you wouldn't be rewarding your children who have more children than others. It would have annoyed me if my parents had left more to my sister's family because she has more children than I have. However, it is your money, your choice. Comment 2. Look, either the little girl is adopted and is now a part of the family, or she is not. This has nothing to do with your son nuking a previous relationship. This is about you seeing the adopted kid as less than, and your money is yours to do with as you want to, legally anyway. But by cutting off an innocent girl that your son made legally his own, you're the idiot. Now, for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been 2 weeks since I last posted about the family drama surrounding our will and my son's adopted daughter. I didn't expect my last post to blow up the way it did, but here I am with an update that's been a ride of emotions. First off, let me give you a bit of history about my youngest son's first marriage. He was always the rebellious one, the one who pushed boundaries and tested limits. His first wife, a sweet woman who adored him, was left heartbroken when he cheated. It was a scandal that rocked our family to the core, and the fallout was messy. They had 2 kids together, and when the divorce was finalized, he cut ties with them completely. My wife and I stepped in to help our daughter-in-law and the kids, which only deepened the rift between us and our son. Fast forward to the present, and the tension has only escalated. After the family gathering, my son and his current wife, the same woman he had an affair with, confronted us. They accused us of being unfair and cruel, especially towards their daughter, my son's adopted stepdaughter. The argument got heated, and words were exchanged that can't be taken back. My son said that if we couldn't accept his daughter as our own, then we were effectively disowning him and his family. Now, here's where things took a turn. My wife and I were going through old photo albums, reminiscing about the past, when we stumbled upon a picture that made our hearts stop. It was a photo of my son's current wife at a family barbecue, years before their affair. She was holding a baby, her daughter, the same girl my son later adopted. The realization hit us like a ton of bricks. The timeline didn't add up. My son had known this woman longer than we thought, and it was possible he was involved with her even before his marriage fell apart. The heartbreak was twofold. Not only had my son betrayed his family, but he had also lied to us about the extent of his affair. The trust we had in him, already hanging by a thread, was now completely shattered. In the midst of this revelation, my other two children came forward with their own concerns. They had always been wary of their brother's actions, but now they felt betrayed too. They had trusted him, defended him against our judgments, but this new information changed everything. They confronted him, demanding the truth, and the confrontation was explosive. My son, cornered by his siblings' accusations, finally admitted the truth. He had been seeing his current wife long before his marriage ended. The affair wasn't just a one-time mistake. It was a full-blown relationship that he had hidden from everyone. The room was thick with tension as he confessed, and his siblings were livid. They felt like fools for ever giving him the benefit of the doubt. The fallout from this confrontation was immediate. My other two kids cut off contact with their brother, unable to reconcile his actions with the brother they thought they knew. My wife and I were left in a state of shock, our family torn apart by secrets and lies. As for the will, it's become the least of our concerns. The heirlooms, the photos, the memories, they all seem so trivial now. Our focus has shifted to mending the bonds with our daughter-in-law and the grandchildren who were left behind. We've been spending more time with them, trying to make up for the years lost due to our son's choices. The heartbreak is still fresh and the wounds are deep. We're trying to navigate this new reality, where our family is fractured and trust is broken. It's a painful process, but we're taking it one day at a time. And as for my son's adopted daughter, the innocent child caught in the middle of this mess, we're still grappling with our feelings. It's not her fault, and we know that, but the pain and betrayal associated with her presence in our family are hard to overlook. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.